Hey guys, today I wanted to talk about Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, but since there's already been so many reviews of that movie done, I'm going to compare it to a movie that I just watched very recently called Venom. Now, this might be a strange comparison to make because Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse is critically acclaimed and Venom has not been so critically acclaimed, but I think it's a really useful comparison to make so we can understand better why something works and resonates very well while another one has its fans but isn't as critically acclaimed. Let's just get right into it. Into the Spider-Verse, right off the bat, this is a really, really well done movie. It was actually incredibly emotional, and in addition to the amazing action scenes, I cared about all of the characters, even the side characters. I felt like it was funnier than a lot of comedy movies. It was more heartfelt than a lot of drama movies, and the action was a lot better than a lot of action movies. So this movie did a bunch of things just very, very well. Now, Venom, on the other hand, I literally just watched this 2 days ago. I had been holding off even though I wanted to check it out. I had heard a lot of mixed things, which I'm sure you have too, but it was not even as good as I had hoped it would be. Some of my friends said that it was a fun, good time, but I guess I am fairly critical when it comes to movies like this, especially when I see the potential because I like the graphics. I like Tom Hardy. Love Riz Ahmed. I think that's his name. There's so many talented people in this movie, and the screenplay, the story, and the character development, it was just so mediocre. I think that's the nicest way I can put it. Whereas in Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, I cared about even the briefest of characters. In Venom, I could not even care about the main character. So what's the difference? Why is one movie resonating with everybody, critics and regular audiences alike? Why is Venom so polarizing and panned? So in Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, our main character, Miles Morales, he has a weakness. He has something that he's struggling with very, very clearly in the beginning. He's moving into a new school and a new environment, and he just wants to be his old self again. And he's a likable kid. He's not like a bad kid, but he's not living up to his full potential. That basically sums up the whole movie. Every scene that happens from the beginning of the movie to the end of the movie is him getting one step closer to realizing the strength and the power he has and what he's capable of. Now, Venom, on the other hand, we open this movie with a very this reporter who's kind of, he doesn't play by the rules. He's cool, but he's nice. He's just kind of very scrappy. And yeah, it's a likable trait. He works hard, he's scrappy, he's good at his job. He wants to tell stories that, change the world. He's not going to pull back from telling stories that he thinks matters. But what's his weakness? Because I would say that his, unrelenting drive to want to achieve something is kind of a weakness, but the movie doesn't address it as a weakness. He comes into this movie as a fairly fully formed character, and by the end of the movie, he's basically the same-ish person, except with a parasite now. He was always a good dude. He always wanted to take responsibility for all these stories and just work really hard. So why are we watching this film if we have a main character that doesn't really have an arc? Of course, there are little things that you could say changed about him, like he stands up more for himself. He realizes he probably mistreated his girlfriend a little bit. But these are all very surface level things that you kind of have to dig a little bit. Whereas in Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, again, I'm going to repeat myself, but the best movies have a clear theme and an arc that we can see in the very beginning. And the movie tells us, okay, Miles Morales is going to need to be able to get used to his new school, but also realize his full potential. And it's so compelling to watch because every character that he meets, every situation that he's thrust into, tests that idea, tests his greatest weakness. Are you going to take responsibility now? And this movie, again and again and again, at times when we think, okay, he's going to make that leap of faith, he's going to become the man he needs to be, he doesn't do it. He gets beaten down more. The hardships get more and more hard, and he cannot do it. From the very beginning to the very, very, very end, he's constantly fighting and climbing and battling with himself, and that's just super compelling to watch. Venom, on the other hand, it's not even in his control. That's not really Tom Hardy's or the screenplay's fault. That's kind of Venom's fault. Like, the idea of Venom is this person that takes over your body. So this is in defense to the people who made Venom. It's hard to have super compelling character development when the monster that takes you over kind of takes away your agency. So he's literally telling him what to do, or he's literally controlling his limbs. And that's not really good, character development stuff. Like, you can't really develop the character if he's doing stuff that's totally, completely outside of his control. Now, if there was a clear scene where he's deciding to do all this stuff on his own, then maybe, we could see his development a little more. But for the most part of this movie, he's not in the driver's seat. So, again, what is the point of this movie? What Into the Spider-Verse also does really well, which even its side characters, are done so well, is the Spider-Pig, the Nicolas Cage Spider-Man, the Japanese anime girl Spider-Man. I don't remember their names, but these side characters and all the different iterations of Peter Parker, they are super engaging, and we don't even spend that much time with them. All we need is that one scene of backstory that sometimes lasts only 30 seconds where we see what made them who they are, that one pain point in the past. And yet, it's pretty simple, but that's enough to make us care. In Venom, what's Riz Ahmed's, what is he suffering with? Why does he have this God complex? We know he has a God complex, but we don't really understand why. He's kind of this elusive, all-knowing Elon Musk character that wants to go to the stars, but we're not really given a compelling reason of why this drives him. And same with Tom Hardy. He comes into this movie with the drive, and he loves his wife, but they're not super related to each other, and we just don't know what his pain point is, what drives him to do all this stuff he does, which isn't that much. You can see Into the Spider-Verse's amazing character development on full display when we see the Kingpin, and all we need is that one line where Spider-Man is asking him or tells him, I know why you're doing this. You're not going to bring them back. Just one line, and all of a sudden, our idea of Kingpin, of who he is, he becomes this two-dimensional evil person. All of a sudden, he's three-dimensional, just because of that one line. And that's not just because of the line, it's the delivery, it's the facial expressions, it's all these little things that come into play. But that was amazing. How many films can you think of where we spend the whole movie with a character and we still don't care? And, in Into the Spider-Verse, we care, or at least we empathize with Kingpin, we empathize with all the Spider-Mans, we empathize with his father, with his uncle, with every character in Into the Spider-Verse, and there's a lot of them. I'm just in awestruck of how well they did that with so little time and jamming it with so many characters. And now back to Venom. Yeah, I don't know who's a compelling character in Venom. I would say, semi-spoiler alert, Woody Harrelson's character seems kind of cool. Tom Hardy's wife. See, I don't even remember their names. I don't remember names anyways, but I think the reason Venom came out as it was a lot of cooks in the kitchen, but also it was a fairly safe bet. I thought the graphics were really cool. Tom Hardy is very compelling to watch and to look at, even when he's not given the best material to work with. From what I read, he was really upset about the final cut and also a lot of parts of the script, and I totally understand that, because if you see what's on screen, he is completely wasted. He's usually given so much better material to work with. I'm sure he knows when his character is not given enough things to kind of spread his wings and really tell a compelling story. But I think Venom needs to go back to basics and have a character that actually has an arc, to have side characters that have backstories that we can empathize with. These are very simple things. It's in all of the Marvel movies for a reason. All of the Marvel movies feel similar because they all follow a very well constructed formula, aka a hero's journey, and that always requires certain beats and certain pain points. give your character something that they're suffering with, and then we can actually relate. Give your bad guys something to suffer with, give your romantic lead some kind of pain point. I mean, it really isn't that hard, but obviously on execution it's super hard. Let me just give me like 2 more minutes. Into the Spider-Verse was so freaking good. I actually teared up a bunch of times. They had all of these little scenes that were complete emotionally resonant short stories within the greater story arc. And it was just so well done because everything was paid off. Every relationship within the story had their little arcs, and they had more problems. With Miles and his father, it wasn't just a simple, oh, we get in a fight and then we finally reconcile. That's usually what happens with these side stories. But in this movie, it was nuanced. The way they talked to each other seemed very real, but the way the father was working towards his own fatherhood and trying to reach his son, he never really talked down to Miles. He would realize when he was wrong, but at sometimes he would still kind of do the wrong things. It was just so delicately done, and I'm sure a lot of dudes watching that will feel really touched and think about their own father stuff. And then the stuff with Gwen Stacy, I really liked how they just ended up being friends in the end, even though there's that tension. I thought that was also super realistic, that they didn't kiss, that they ended up in friends, but who knows what happens in the future. This movie was just, it really is not fair to compare this to Venom, but why shouldn't we, want or aspire that the rest of our movies can be this good, or if not better? I think this is not just a good superhero movie. It's a really good comedy. It's a really good action film. It's a really good everything. If you haven't seen it, I would highly, highly recommend it. Would I recommend Venom? Probably not, but I don't regret watching it. I love Tom Hardy. I thought the graphics were cool. There's a lot of story issues. There's probably a lot better uses for your time, maybe any other like Marvel Studios movie. But hopefully Venom's next movie, they can have a little bit more faith and not having to just use so much flash and really focus more on the characters and the story. So yeah, that's all I got. Hope you enjoyed this. What's your favorite Spider-Man iteration? This movie literally made me cry. Okay, I'm just gonna admit it. This movie made me cry like 3 times. Like straight up, I had tears coming down. I was so touched. Up, I had one big cry. This movie, I had multiple, just like a fine shimmering or drizzle. And yeah, I'm glad I watched it alone and that I have no friends. So that was perfect. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you all next time.